Hello, everyone. We miss you. Hope that you're staying safe and staying well. We miss you all and look forward to seeing you again soon. I want to say thank you. We were completely overwhelmed by your support this last week. The amount of people that bought shirts buys us a lot of time and made us feel very secure. So thank you. Today, in addition to me recommending some things, my friend Jonathan Hertzberg, I've asked to also recommend a film. Jonathan developed and curates the Kino Repertory label. He created and edited the Dirty Old New York series of video essays. It's also called Fun City. Those are great. I recommend them. He's been a programmer at the Chicago International Film Festival, the Anthology Film Archives, DOC Films, and the Wisconsin Union Directorate. Jonathan has been a good friend to the Trilon and has turned me on to some of my all-time favorite finds in the last couple of years. And without further ado, here's Jonathan.
Thank you, John, and welcome Trilon viewers. Today, I'd like to recommend one of my favorite unsung films of the 1980s, James Bridges' Mike's Murder from 1984. You can currently view this via VUDU.com or the Warner Archive DVD, which is readily available from all of the usual online outlets. It's a neo-noir, though you might also call it a sunshine noir, and it stars Deborah Winger, fresh off of her success in An Officer and a Gentleman. Bridges had previously directed Winger in her breakout role a few years earlier in Urban Cowboy. I'd guess that if you enjoy films from the era such as American Gigolo or Cutter's Way, that you will go for Mike's Murder in a big way. This is also a film that fits into the category of film maudit, which literally translates as cursed film. And Mike's Murder had a very troubled post-production and release history. It was shelved by a studio, the Lab Company, for over a year while it was re-edited and rescored after test audiences had complained that it was too depressing and confusing. And that's a shame, because in Bridges' original cut, the film was constructed in a non-linear order with an original score by Joe Jackson, who had recently had a big hit with the song Steppin' Out. And if the film had been released this way then, it would have done something similar to what Memento did over 15 years later. When the film finally emerged in general release in March of 1984, it was re-edited into chronological order, and Jackson's score and songs were mostly replaced by a more traditional score by John Barry. None of this seemed to matter at the box office, and that's probably because this is what I like to call a 70s film that somehow slipped out in the Reagan era. In a time of high-concept action films and thrillers, Mike's Murder is a realistic character piece and a mystery that is downbeat, gritty, and at times rather ugly in terms of the subcultures and characters it portrays. Winger plays Betty, a shy bank teller who has an on-again, off-again relationship with a flighty tennis pro named Mike. Mike and a friend get involved over their heads in drug dealing with some very nasty characters, and Mike is brutally killed. What follows is Betty's investigation into Mike's death and the darker side of his life, which she previously knew nothing about. In addition to Winger's fine performance as a woman grieving a man she loved but who was a mystery to her, Paul Winfield is a standout as Philip, a high-powered music producer who had also been Mike's lover and was also a father figure for the younger man. And the film is at its best and most haunting in these moments, when these characters who were touched by Mike share their grief and regret at not being able to save him. And I think this is probably because Mike was based on a real person who was killed under similar circumstances and who was actually loved by both Paul Winfield and James Bridges in real life. So with that in mind, it's easy to see why the film has such a heart-rending and raw quality. And I think all this goes towards creating a very strong mood piece. Ostensibly a mystery, the film is really interested in Betty's discovery of the real Mike. And this is something that unfortunately she can only do after he's dead. The late Bridges, who remains an unduly under-the-radar director, excels here in portraying evocative Los Angeles locales, both seedy and upscale, with an eye that only a longtime Angelino could. And on top of this, he fills the narrative with offbeat, daring touches, particularly for a mainstream Hollywood production. Most prominent is its refreshingly nonchalant and non-judgmental portrayal of gay characters at a time when this was still quite rare in American film and television. This is a deceptively little film that packs a punch and will stick with you long after it's over.